half in the bag.
Well, I heard you went on a date with Mr. Plinkett.
I did, yeah. Our first date, it went really well. We went to the movies. We saw The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise. The only weird thing was there was a guy in the bathroom wearing a ski mask that was handing out free samples of cake.
Well,
I mean, I took him, of course, because it's free cake. It was fucking delicious.
yeah. I mean, if there's a weirdo in a bathroom wearing a ski mask handing you something to eat, always just try it.
You know, you've told me that advice before, and that's why I took it.
It's good advice. Always eat the cake when it's handed to you. You know, it's funny. I also saw The Mummy, too.
Oh, do you want to talk about The Mummy starring Tom Cruise?
About halfway through the film, I started to get a little itchy because I forgot I was wearing a ski mask. I always eat the cake when it's handed to you.
Welcome to a new world of gods and monsters.
The Mummy is the first and last entry in Universal's Dark Universe Cinematic Universe, or the UDUCU for short. It stars Tom Cruise as a confused elderly man who seems unaware what movie he's in, who uncovers an ancient tomb that unleashes Sophia Boutella as a soul-sucking mummy. At last, cinema now has that sexy mummy that we've all been clamoring for. The movie co-stars Russell Crowe, Jake Johnson as Griffin Dunn, and a blonde woman who will work for scale. Mike, what did you think of The Mummy?
Well, Jay, I know this film has been getting bad reviews, but I have to say I loved it. No, I'm just fucking with you. It sucked. It might have been the worst film I've ever seen.
That's not true. You know what, I would describe this movie as watchable. The third act gets really tedious, but I think it was watchable, but I still hated it. I hated it for everything that it represents, which I guess we'll get into because it's way more interesting than the movie itself. Before seeing the movie, I put a question out on Twitter where I was like, if this movie flops, is that the end of this dark universe before it even gets going? And people were responding. Multiple people were saying it doesn't matter if it flops here, like foreign market, foreign release. And so that idea of like doing well overseas was in my brain while watching it, and it became more and more prevalent when the exposition was so on the nose and explaining exactly what was happening. And there's multiple flashbacks to a prologue just to keep reminding you exactly what's happening. And normally we say like, oh, the movie's made for dummies, but I think this movie's not made for dummies. This movie is made for people that don't speak English. And the foreign market is more important than making a decent movie. And so that was my biggest takeaway from this movie, and it just felt so pathetic.
Yeah, the long stretches of flashbacks that have voiceover explaining. There's a big one with Russell Crowe,
Yeah.
and then there's several other ones where you're saying that they could just swap out the dialogue and they don't have to do like voiceover. They could just change it out to whatever they want.
Yeah.
And for the Chinese market, they could change it out to the mystical Chinese god of so-and-so bestowed the mummy with magical power, and change the story too.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Who needs integrity or a decent film?
Yeah, it's. I think the best word to describe this film is pathetic, because it even has that at the end. It has that Marvel like music. That's like like where it's like ramping up to the end to get you excited for the next film. It's like copied directly from that.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like Universal Studios is just like going, what do we got?
That's all I was thinking about was like, yeah, there's the classic Universal monster movies from the 30s and 40s. And these current executives, they're just like, Marvel's big! What can we dig up? We got these moldy old monster movies, let's turn them into action films! That was the most, like that made my skin crawl when I saw that. It's a Dark Universe trailer, which is essentially a trailer for the logo.
Right.
And it's footage from all of the classic Universal monster movies, edited with like modern action music. And it's so so lame.
Yeah, well, it serves two purposes. One, to get people aware of this dark universe concept, which I had no idea. I had not heard of it.
It came out, like, they started advertising it just like a week or two before this movie came out. They published a photo of, like, the cast, so it's got, like, Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise, and then, like, Johnny Depp, who's going to be playing the Invisible Man. And they're like, look, we're here, we're the Dark Universe. We're just like Marvel. I know we tried this already with Dracula Untold, but that was a flop, so that doesn't count. This is a do-over. Now we got Tom Cruise. It's a surefire hit. Everything about it feels so desperate.
Yeah, desperate and pathetic.
The next film they're doing is Bride of Frankenstein. Before Frankenstein.
Okay. That's gonna make sense. It does.
How does it make sense?
Because they just did a Frankenstein. And Bride of Frankenstein
You talking about the I, Frankenstein movie?
No, Victor Frankenstein, motherfucker. Don't you remember that? It happened like a year ago. They just did that. I mean, that movie was better than this, and that movie would fit better in this universe. I don't know if it's part of it or who.
No, that has nothing to do with it. I didn't particularly like Victor Frankenstein, but at least felt like it had some personality. And that's this movie. It's like eating a rice cake. Like, there's nothing to this.
Yeah, but I can see them wanting to do Bride of Frankenstein because that hair is so iconic, and it's things we know again. But this movie was a disaster. There was a thing that I noticed, like, because this movie is directed by a prestigious filmmaker by the name of Alex Kurtzman, part of the Kurtzman and Orsi writing duo that wrote the first 2 Star Trek films. And again, this new franchise.
Fuck Star Trek, I'm gonna have my own cinematic universe. Here's the Mummy.
But yeah, aside from the lengthy scenes of exposition dialogue that were just embarrassing, like, oh god, when the scale blonde woman, like, when she's like, you're just a sly adventurer who spends all of his time searching for antiquities to sell them on the black market.
This is actual dialogue.
Yeah, and it was like straight out of like a B movie that we'd watch on Best of the Worst. It was just awful. But then I'm watching it, and then your Russell Crowe character appears, and I noticed a trope, or at least I'm going to create it as a trope, and we're going to recreate it for you here.
Okay.
I'm going to call it the no-look look, and it means that this guy is all business. This sounds really stupid. It sounds really minute, but it's so corny looking on screen as a visual. The construction guy runs up to him and he goes, Sir, wait a minute. What are you doing lately? And hands him like a letter, like, and keeps looking around, as in, I'm too important to even give you the time. I'm focused on this shit.
Sure.
And it's like film school level directing. You know what I mean?
Hey, you know this area is off limits.
Talk to the judge. This is my crime scene now.
Tom Cruise's character is a thief, and multiple times throughout the movie, someone says, Tom Cruise, you're a thief.
He was kind of like a throwback to like the 80s action star, like the machismo man who sits around with women. And
yeah, and it was distracting because I think Tom Cruise is completely wrong for that part. I thought Tom Cruise was flat out bad in this movie, and I don't hate Tom Cruise, but if this is the first movie you'd ever seen with Tom Cruise, you'd be like, wow, that guy's a movie star? Like, he is bad in this. He's so miscast.
Yeah.
You need like a Chris Pratt.
Yeah, we can make a whole episode on why Tom Cruise is miscast in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. It was straight out weird. I think everyone goes, Tom Cruise? Because he has a pretty good track record of picking decent scripts and vehicles for himself over the past, like, 15 years.
Yeah.
A couple of exceptions, but you have all the Mission Impossible movies, which the last 3 of them have been fun, smartly written, good action adventure films.
Yeah.
The couple of sci-fi ones he did,
Edge of Tomorrow?
Edge of Tomorrow, also known as Live, Die, Repeat, right? That's that one. And then there was the other one that was so-so, but it wasn't terrible.
Oblivion?
Oblivion, and a couple other movies, and then And then he's like, this?
Yeah.
This is like not his caliber. He's like A-list.